People have this desire to know that the world is bigger than them, that there are possibilities out there that go beyond our daily lives. People want to experience magic. They want to experience wonder. They want to feel that anything's possible.
One of the greatest dreams that anybody has ever had, and most people have had in their life, is the ability to float or fly. Somebody in every one of their lives has at one point dreamt they could float in the air. And I do that every night. I've created illusions where I float and fly. When I was a little boy, I literally jumped off the roof of my house thinking I could fly. My dreams are so real, I had a difficult time telling the difference between reality and fantasy.
Magic has been a part of theater and about entertainment since the very beginning. It's something that we find in Greek plays. It's something that we see was incorporated into Elizabethan plays and masks. And it's always been fascinating to give the audience a taste of something that's exotic and that's unbelievable. But the kind of magic that I'm involved with is illusion magic, something that surprises you by being impossible, something that's incorporated in the story, so that it helps tell the story by adding an element of magic. In the 1860s, everything changed when magicians and theater designers realized that they could incorporate optical illusions, actual optical effects, on stage in their productions. And I think the original of those was The Ghost, which was an invention of John Henry Pepper, that actually put a transparent ghost on stage interacting with other actors. Now, it was very limited as to how it could be used, but it was an incredible inspiration for other producers and other directors. And we can see those principles, we can see those little effects working their way through the history of magic in different forms and in different incarnations, all the way up to modern shows in Las Vegas.
About 1910 to about 1926 or 27, the Industrial Revolution brought people from the rural areas to the cities and gave them a little bit of expendable income. And so for the first time, people were en masse going out to the theater, and theaters began to pop up. But for the magicians, all of a sudden there was this new environment, which was a theater. They could control the lighting, they could have trap doors, they could have a theater-like setting. So this was like really a new playground. And out of that came this great surge of creativity. That's known as the golden age of magic, and magicians really were the rock stars of the day. And then what happened is this brand new thing came along called movies. And in a matter of a few years, this grand place of live performance disappeared.
I still remember the impact it's had to me to see some of the great historical magic, things that were forgotten for generations, things that might be used in vaudeville or might be used in the 19th century that were ignored. And there were fashions for these things, but what we've learned is that there really is no fashion for the secrets. Because they're secrets, they're always of use, they're always of value. So when I was a kid, I had a chance to see great magicians who were performing illusions from the 20s and the 30s and reviving them and performing them in the 60s and the 70s and the 80s. And that was an incredible inspiration because we realized that we were seeing something old and something very new at the same time.
P.T. Selbit was concocting this brand new illusion called sawing a man in half. And he was going to debut it in London on a stage. And the other thing that was going on at that time was women's suffrage. Women get very, very controversial. And although maybe in polite society it was, people said they were in support of it, the country was really split. In fact, the world was really split, which we can understand in today's world. So P.T. Selbit had a brilliant stroke of genius. He decided in one moment he would not debut cutting a man in half, but he would cut a woman in half, a single violent act on a woman on stage under the guise of evening's entertainment. And it made headlines. Other magicians began to copy. The other thing they began to copy was they go, wow, a woman makes a beautiful presence on stage and is far more interesting to watch than two men up there. Magicians back then and now were pretty ruthless, because it really meant if there was a trick that was creating a sensation, that meant dollars, that meant money, that meant success. So magicians were very big on copying. So they would try to suss out, they would try to steal. There's a famous story of the great Thurston that had a great levitation called the Levitation of Princess Karnak. Beautiful girl rising on stage.
There was a very famous American illusionist called Harry Keller who heard about this illusion, and he came to London to see it. And he watched, and he didn't know how it was done. He came back the following night and the following night, and he would sit in a different seat in the theatre every night and still couldn't work out how it was done. And eventually it was becoming quite expensive, not just in theatre tickets, but he needed to be back in America and doing his show. So he, one night, just walked straight up onto the stage and walked all the way around the floating lady to try and see how it was done. And once he had the secret, then he went back and started performing it in his show.
Illusionists were the biggest act in the entire world in about the early 1900s. There's no television, there's no radio, and when people went out to the opera or to the music theaters to see something, the Illusionists were the biggest and best of all the acts worldwide.
Illusionist Turn of the Century is a classic magic show that you might have seen in an opera house or a theater 100 years ago. The other shows are very, very youth-oriented. This was an opportunity to bring into the fold some of the magicians that I respect, some of the guys that have been out there doing it a long time.
The nature of being a daredevil and a stunt performer is asking somebody to care whether or not you live or die. Performing at the Palace Theatre, there is such a direct connection to Houdini. He performed on the stage many times and was also, the theatre was built by the man who gave Houdini his big break.
Houdini was a magician, and then he would do stunts, escape from a straitjacket out in front of the theater during the day to help make people aware of his show, to help sell tickets. He was known as King of Cards before that.
There's a long history of animals in magic. Of course, the classic rabbit from hat, magician making a dove appear, which Rick does in the show, which probably one of the high points of the show for the audience is all of his of magic. And I think the challenge for the performer and the magician is to also understand that nowadays there's a different sensibility out there. People are very sensitive to animals and entertainment. It becomes paramount to not only give the impression of caring for that animal and making sure the audience is comfortable, but in actuality really doing that.
There are many, many elements in a theater, in any theatrical production, that are considered magical. The interactions of the characters, the way something's written, the way costume is designed to create a certain effect. The knowledge of magic is scattered among a big variety of books that have a lot of little secrets in them. There are a number of really simple, amazing secrets in magic that have been enhanced by a wonderful presentation and a wonderful technique. The most important thing is to be aware of all the techniques, to be willing to experiment with them. Because we're still taking old techniques and changing them around in a way that they fool magicians today who are knowledgeable about the subject. So there's no such thing as an old trick, there's just a trick that hasn't been dusted off properly and put in the new setting so that it looks new. And so at the very beginning of the process, we'll start with artist renderings, drawings of what the illusion will look like, and then we'll start working with the performer, whether it's an actor in a show or a director or actually a magician, and we'll start working out how they're going to perform it. So we end up writing a script for it at the same time. So these are the kind of colorful way that we'll start these, and the way that we'll start visualizing exactly what they're going to be. We'll start with often a color kind of rendering so the performer sees what the prop is going to look like. So we'll start to visualize elements of the show, and we'll start to see how that's going to be decorated and then how that's going to fit on the stage. And then those end up getting integrated into the scenic design of the show and the costume design, and then they come back when the actual production is done. So these are early kind of artist renderings to show the performer what he'd be looking for. A lot of people treat magic as a kind of pyrotechnic. You know, if you push a button, something amazing happens over here. And it's really more than that. Great illusions are little stories. And when they're all lined up in a play, they actually help tell the story and they help further the action of the play. And I think that's the ideal that we're all searching for when we put something, an illusion effect inside of a show.
Oh no, he's dead!
In an illusion, when it's presented on stage, there really are three scripts going on. There's the script of what the magician is saying, so that it gives the right effect and it gives the right enhancements to the audience. And then there's a secret script of what the magician is actually doing to accomplish that trick. And that's a very valid script as well, because that's all happening in an underhanded way behind the scenes. And then there's a third script that has to be considered, which is what the audience is thinking at any moment. So in order to do any of those effects, certainly the flying carpet in Aladdin, that really is a product of everyone pulling together and all the design team pulling together. The set by Bob Crowley is specifically designed to make that illusion work. The lighting by Natasha Katz is specifically designed to make that effect work. It looks effortless, and that's a credit to their design skills, because you don't see anything special, you don't see anything unusual about that. You just see an amazing set, an amazing array of lights that tell this kind of moonlight flight. And when it's all put together, all those things go past you and you focus only on the illusion. The great use of it in the theater is to tell us something about the story and the characters in a way that we didn't expect, and to leave us with more of an impression than just the illusion. I'm working on a couple of stage shows that use magic as elements of them, including a production in theater right now called The Magic Play.
When you come to see the magic play, you sit down and you start watching a magic show. A magician comes out on stage and he is delivering his magic show to the audience, and you're a member of that audience, and you are watching a magic show unfold in front of you. And then things start to go off the rails a little bit, and we later find out that this character, the magician, well, his lover has just left them.
I took him to the aquatic center where I trained.
It was late at night.
He thinks we snuck in, but I actually had a key. So the whole place is dark, except the pool had this...
The magician is a character who can control every aspect of his life, on stage and off, and especially in his personal life. And in that way, he's never truly vulnerable. And I think this play asks the question that if you never risk vulnerability, can you ever be truly intimate with someone?
He's showing me how to do an approach. And after like 15 minutes... Okay, all right.
The Magic Play is a piece that we're doing right now here at the Goodman that combines magic with a sort of more traditional theatrical narrative. I think theater and magic actually have quite a bit in common with regard to truth and deception, in that, you know, when we go to the theater, we know that what we're seeing is not real. We know that that's not what's actually literally happening in that room.
It actually is a real card, 2.5 by 3.5 inches. It just hasn't been printed yet. And make sure that it is in fact blank, nothing rubs off. It's truly a blank card.
Similarly, when we see a magician, you know, predict what card someone has chosen, we know that there's something else going on there. And yet, both art forms aim to get at some kind of truth.
What was that card that you were merely thinking of?
A 2 of diamonds.
The 2 of diamonds?
Yes.
That's what you imagined?
Yes.
And you see, when you imagine printing that card.
Now to show you exactly where the lady hangs. Our medium is at the back.
Magic has always had a certain amount of exposure. When magic gets popular, exposing magic becomes popular. Whether it's through TV shows exposing it, or in the 40s and 50s, Camel cigarettes used to expose magic, but magic has always survived. Now we have something called the internet, and really any piece of information is out there, anything you want to know. But from somebody that's been in magic my entire life, that's seen magic go through many changes, you know, for me, I remember that feeling as a child going to Disneyland, and it was this amazing place, and then I would see a TV show on all the mechanics and the animatronics and how it worked and the tunnels underneath and all these things, and yet somehow, when I walked through those gates, it was magic again.
Magicians do their very best to keep their secrets and to keep them from other magicians. But the truth is that the secrets of magic are very, very simple. I always say that the magicians guard an empty safe, which is that they guard it so that you don't find out that it's empty. And there isn't a secret in magic, really, that I couldn't explain to you in about 2 sentences that wouldn't completely disappoint you. And what magicians do, what we've learned, is that we keep those secrets. We don't tell people those secrets because rather than disappointing them, we want to give them a sense of amazement. And so what you do is you keep the secret and you make sure that it's enhanced by different points, different presentations, so that it looks as good as it can possibly be, so that people don't think about the ordinariness of it, they just think about the extraordinariness of it.
it really has little to do with knowing how a trick works. And so if somebody wants to, they can find anything they want, but if they want to become a magician, you learn other skills.
The deception that magic uses is simply a medium for what you're truly after, which is a moment of connection.
There are all sorts of deceptions, and people use deception every day. They use it in advertising, they use it in politics. They certainly use it to cheat other people. And those sorts are written about and understood. But magicians use that deception to do something very interesting, which is to create a moment or several moments of wonder. They give an experience that's uplifting to an audience.
Ah, sight after dazzling sight, you'll say to yourself tonight, it's about magic, it's about wonder, it's about tingles down your spine.
But what's profound about it, what's interesting about it, is how it gives you an experience of amazement, how it uses your own senses to deceive you and tell you something about a story in a completely new and different way. And the audience is always complicit in this. The audience is always part of that deception because we're drawing upon what they know, we're drawing on their experiences, we're drawing on how we know they'll react to certain things to enhance that effect.